Mr. Griffith, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Marlon.
And I know you're going to disagree with that statement I made, that you have had some success as police commissioner. I know you would say more.
I didn't say a word. Good morning to you. Yes.
Right? Mr. Griffith is also, as you know, the political leader of the NTA, and his party is going to be contesting the upcoming local government election. But Mr. Griffith, let's speak about the crime situation. Judging from what we have seen in recent times, it appears that something has gone awry as it relates to this country's attempts to effectively deal with crime.
Yes, and we have seen that from since 2015. There's been a gradual increase, so this should not be surprising to the country. That increase has continued from 350 odd, and it just kept going every single year, except for my last year when within that last full year we had 342 murders. Unfortunately, just a few months later, it has almost doubled. So from 342 murders in a year, in my last year, it's getting to close to 612 in a year. But the fact is that it is not hopeless. Persons believe that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There is. The first thing I would like to ask the country is to understand we continue to cast blame and demonize the persons who hold office, whether it is the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, the Commissioner of Police. They are human. In fact, that is why I actually offered to assist the Prime Minister. And I will ask all citizens of this country, we must stop seeing them as the enemy. They are not to be blamed for the situation. They are responsible. And I think that's the first thing that they need to do. Persons in authority need to accept responsibility. Do not say it is not your job and you're not responsible for it. The first act of leadership is to accept responsibility. That, unfortunately, the security minister is not doing. So the things to turn it around firstly is that those in authority must take responsibility. I will ask others in society to support those individuals, as I did. So the second thing is those in authority must, even though you accept responsibility, you must be willing to get the support of those persons, even if they do not have your party card. For a prime minister to say that I do not need your help, I do not want your support, even though 89% out of the country wanted you back as commissioner, that shows irresponsibility and that is immaturity. The third has to do with you actually saw it in your editorial today where it spoke about the importance of effective leadership, and that must be shown. We are trying to blame Willa Christopher again. She has only been there for 6 months. There's no way, and I said it from January when criminologists talk total nonsense and say, yes, they believe she could turn it around. That was impossible. I said it from January. I said, hold up, there's no way that she could have done that in January. I, as a commissioner of police, with all of the perception of me being Batman, I knew it was impossible because I took the battle from Stephen Williams at its worst ever, so it was closer to 500. And it took me a year to transform the police service, to get the public to buy into the police service, for public trust and confidence to reach from 14% to 55%. And that took a while. So it must take time for her. The problem, however, is that within those 6 months, there's been nothing that she has shown. The 170 odd policies that were shut down or dismantled under my watch, nothing has been reignited. There's been nothing effective. There's nothing that she has shown. A tea party and a fashion show is not going to put it. The public must know that, listen, we're not expecting you to do this overnight, but what have you done? What do you intend to do? There must also be finally leadership by example. It is not accidental that I will always be on the ground with my troops being there. That builds trust and confidence. It lifts morale. It builds motivation. It gets the public to believe and trust the police service. We are seeing an absence of that. So I would strongly advise that persons need to accept responsibility. They must also be willing to accept support from others if they don't have your political party cards. And we must start thinking out of the box, shutting down and dismantling and not reigniting anything new. That means there's not going to be a light at the end of that tunnel.
But surely, Mr. Griffith, you would agree that time has run out on us. Judging from what you have told us, we have heard that. We have heard about leadership. We have heard about a number of things. But hasn't time run out? You have a situation, and it is nothing new. It has been happening over a period of time where you have people being shot in public, any and everywhere. So the mall is not a safe place. The school, outside the school, is not a safe place anymore. Outside the cinema is not a safe place. So people want assistance right now.
Yeah, correct. But I want to go back to your editorial in today's Express. You spoke about thoughtful and effective leadership, and I think that's what the country wants. I could go back to New York City in the mid-90s when Mayor Giuliani and Bill Bratton, they reduced crime, massive reduction. The country still did not feel safe, so they had to do a revamp. So it wasn't about the crime statistics alone, and that is what I did a lot of, transforming the image of the police service, customer service training, public relations, and the public started believing, trusting, and by them doing that, it gave more information to the public. It can't be same old, and I am agreeing with you. Criminologists just coming on shows and saying, well, we need to increase the detection rate. It is the only country in the world that we go to criminologists to get points about law enforcement. I would like our criminologists to do their job as a criminologist, which is to understand the cause of crime. That is all they're supposed to be. But not one criminologist actually goes to the prisons, interviews prisoners, find out what caused them to commit crime, and then it comes back to the law enforcement officials. We get criminologists to give crime plans, and that is where that's where we falter. And there are things that can be done. It was shown from August 2020 to August 2021. There was a total turnaround. We moved from 530 odd murders to 342. It was continuing. What we did is high visibility, rapid response, effective policing, making sure you have an immediate barrier to lock down the country. Now you have traffic congestion across the whole country and not even seeing one police officer on the road. And it goes, mind you, back to leadership. When you listen to the Prime Minister complaining that Gary Griffith shut down police stations, that is the 1960s policing. If people go to New York, London, Montreal, Toronto, how many times do you see a police station? Politicians in this country feel that every time there's a crime, you put a police station on the corner. More police stations mean less police officers out in the street. When Dwayne Gibbs tried the same thing, he was chased. You couldn't chase Gary Griffith, right? 20 police officers, that's not working. Having 12 police officers in a station waiting for somebody to report a crime. That's why I put online reporting. That's why we had the mobile app with 460,000 hits in 6 months, and they shut that down.
But Mr. Griffith, to me, if you're saying that these policies, the 170 something policies, were shut down, but wouldn't that be inimical to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and more so the country?
Well, yeah, but remember, people fear change, effective change, and there was a lot in middle management, good officers there that can easily transform the police service. I've been speaking to some of them, telling them, do not leave, hold the ground, because they are frustrated. They are frustrated with we have gone back to the Gabonese outfit, old-time policing, waiting stations. It can turn around, and that's my point. So when we have 117 police stations odd in a country of this size. We have actually more police stations than New York City. And because we feel that is it, you put one police officer in a station, you get officers out in the street. That emergency response patrol was 100 vehicles centered throughout the country, GPS tracking, monitoring the area of responsibility, making sure that there's a response to a distress call. A few moments later, that was not a joke. Criminals actually felt that as soon as they jumped a wall, they kidnapped somebody, there's going to be a response. We locked it down. It can happen, but people have to accept change, appreciate technology. It's not by accident that kidnappings, home invasions, they were eliminated in this country because the criminals did not know where we were coming from. The things are there. I spoke to Ulla Christopher. I asked her to give her advice. She refused. I have spoken to the Prime Minister. He scoffed at it. And then people started applauding in a political meeting like those train seals in SeaWorld in Orlando. And you're not caring. We cannot continue for politics to destroy this country. We got to do what is required. We have the technology. We have the training. What we need is the political will.
Yeah. So you do admit that we do have the resources because, from time immemorial, we always heard about the police service just does not have the resources. They don't have vehicles. They can't respond and a number of things. But you do believe that the TTPS does have the resources.
Yeah, Marlon, listen, Colin Imbut, as ineffective as he was, he reduced the budget for the police service by $240 million. And so when the Prime Minister starts to wave a document to start about a Ministry of Finance audit, he didn't mention that. $240 million you reduced in the police budget. You then did not give me a cent for the first 6 months of every fiscal year. So I was trying to run a 7,000-man and woman organization with 117 stations, 1,700 vehicles without a cent for the first 6 months of every year. It has to do with finding a way to make it happen. You sit back and say, well, we don't have resources. When we push through Nicole Dyer Griffith, when it is that she pushed the I support our service, it is done worldwide. It is to get the business sector to work with us. A tires down for a vehicle, a muffler. You repair those things. We had 100 vehicles out and about. You have to be proactive. You've got to think out of the box. And what we did is something known as predictive policing. It is not this old-time comments we continue to hear, Marlon, about the detection rate. We have to increase the detection rate. It is hardly going to happen. I'll tell you why. Because most of the murders are gang-related. So it's going to be a hit in an area where nobody's going to see anything or see anything, and there's not going to be any evidence on the ground at the spot. So whether it's Chicago, Baltimore, LA, New York, when you have that type of murder, it is not that you're going in there in a crime scene. So you have all these officers dressed up in white, like if they're in a Peter Minshall carnival band. Those things don't work anymore. The main thing is predictive policing, having technology through social media monitoring unit, using technology to anticipate a crime that was about to be committed. When we formed the Special Operation Response Team, all of them were polygraphed. They were stopping the murders from taking place. That was shut down along with the Operational Command Center, the Commissioner's Command Center, the National Operations Center, the E999, the Emergency Response Patrol, the Social Media Monitoring Unit, the Covert Operative Unit, the GPS tracking on the vehicles. I could go on whole day. Those are the things that can be, if reignited, it will peg back the criminals, provide the deterrent. So the comments you're hearing about, well, the opposition didn't approve a bill, those same bills were not approved when I was commissioner. So yes, those things can help. But the main thing is exactly what you have in your editorial, thoughtful and effective leadership.
How do you deal with what we have been seeing maybe over the past few years, in that the face of crime is literally changing, and you're not seeing too much of people committing crimes with the handgun anymore. You're seeing these large weapons, these automatic weapons in almost every incident now. You're seeing that. So how do you curb that? How do you put a finger on that and stop that?
Well, the first thing, the government needs to get their hands off of the police and stop interfering with the policing, because we have over 70 police officers assigned 24/7 to see what you can find in the hope that you could arrest somebody as it pertains to issuing of legal firearms. Over 70 officers assigned. Dig and see what you could find, because we need this for political survival. And not one police officer assigned to deal with illegal firearms. And 99.9% of the murders committed by firearms in the last 5 years have been by illegal firearms. So when the Prime Minister again misleads the country to say that there have been 100 crimes involved with legal firearms, he forgot to mention that 90% of those were police officers, defense force personnel who have lost firearms, had a negligent discharge. So when it is you put all your focus and your energies and your resources in dealing with a system that should assist law-abiding citizens, which is legal firearms, and you put no resources into stopping illegal firearms from entering the country, that is where we'll have the problem. Police seize about 800 odd firearms illegally a year, which is about 8,000 in 10 years. A container leaves our port without being checked, can take all of those back out onto the streets in one night. So we have a serious problem. The US, when I met with them on several occasions, they confirmed that 95% of the illegal firearms that enter our country comes from the legitimate ports of entry. What has this government done? Nothing. I packaged it. I showed them how to do a border protection unit, because you can't have customs alone dealing with that. Because the night you have one rogue customs officer, one rogue stevedore, one rogue driver, and one rogue security guard at the port, that container is going to come out. We misplace, listen to the words, misplace 10 containers a year. It leaves our port without being checked. So when it is you have a situation, I provide you with the border protection unit, which is providing different representatives throughout national security, all polygraphed, one hand knowing what the other is doing. I give you a mobile scanner. You eliminate all that, because Gary Griffith did it. That is where the problem lies. We stop the illegal guns from entering the country as much as possible, and we focus on seizing what is already here. We can greatly diminish the number of murders that we have annually.
But doesn't it speak to accountability too? Because if you're saying that per year 10 containers are going missing, it tells me that there has to be a level of accountability. Somebody must say where this has gone, or how this has happened.
Well, the Minister of Finance confirmed his reason for it. He said it takes too long. Therein lies the problem. Going right back, I'm sorry, to your editorial, thoughtful and effective leadership. When you have a Minister of Finance, which again shows how backward we are in this country, you have Customs under the Ministry of Finance, when Customs is a critical law enforcement arm. That should be under the Ministry of National Security. But the Minister of Finance says, well, we can't search every single container because it will take too long, because people need to get their goods. Madness! Nothing is more important than the safety and security of citizens of this country. That is our most fundamental right. Lock down the borders. Check every single container that comes in. To try to compare us to Hong Kong and other countries that bring in thousands of containers daily. We do not have that problem in birth. So don't compare that as an avenue to justify the situation of us trivializing the importance of checking those containers. I brought the mobile scanners because I realized how incompetent the government was in securing our ports, because I realized I am the commissioner of police at the time, and you're not securing our borders, so I have to help you do your job. That's why I drafted that border protection unit, to help the commissioner do his job. And those things have been trivialized and they've been ignored. It gives the impression, is it that you're that incompetent, or is it some other motive? And it gives people, it has you wondering, because another major concern that has caused criminal activity in this country that has been going on for decades is governments giving gang leaders state contracts. You give them a $5 million contract to build a $50,000 box train. They are not using it to develop your community, their community. They're using it to buy more illegal firearms, hire more gang members, put more hits on other gangs to get their state contracts. Those things must end. And so all of these things I spoke about explains why Gary Griffith has now changed his uniform to get back into politics, to get this right.
Yeah. And talking about politics, I know that that there is an arrangement between your political party and the United National Congress to contest the upcoming local government election. I suspect, and I'm sure that you would have spoken about this before, but I suspect this is a different arrangement. Your arrangement with the UNC is different to the MND's arrangement with the party.
Well, they're also part, they do not have persons that are candidates. So the NTA will have 31 candidates, the UNC has 110. Persons have been questioning or asking the rationale behind this. Coalition governments, we had over 80 countries in the world that had coalition governments, or presently have. So over 30 in Europe, a dozen in the Americas, Asia, Africa. Many have worked, some have not. But likewise with governments, many have worked, some have not. The point is, I am very tactical, I'm very strategic. Every single time there's a coalition among political parties, the PNM, they are defeated. Every single time. 1986, 1995, 2010 general election, 2010 local government election. Every single time. Every single time there's not a coalition, the PNM wins. Every single time. But once, and that government lasted a few months. So if it is that the country says, listen, 89% wanted somebody to stay and try to assist in reducing crime, then now it's for the country to decide what is more important. Do you want Gary Griffith and persons to come and transform Trinidad and Tobago? My concept is the same way I was able to transform what was seen as probably the least trusted, which was in the public service, which was the police service, at 14%, and it was transformed to 55%. I promised the country that the same way that I transformed something that was arguably the least trusted into the most trusted, I will do the same with every arm in the public service. This was the same prime minister that comments came from me from cabinet, but up into March 2021. He said that he wished he could get 10 Gary Griffiths and the country will be transformed. You don't need 10 Gary Griffiths. What you need, going back to your editorial, you need thoughtful and effective leadership. That I intend to do, and we intend to transform Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. Griffith, I'm sure that you would have thought about this, but what are you trying to achieve here? One, hold up. Is it that I'm sure that you would have thought about if your party is successful at this election and if your party is unsuccessful at this election. If the latter happens, what for Gary Griffith and the NTA?
Well, failure has never been an option for me, one. And two, as I said, the data is there and the polls are there. The reason why the Prime Minister got his meltdown in St. James was because he got the polls that actually showed there's almost identical pattern of what took place in 2010. The country is hurting. The country needs that degree of an option. Whether you call it the ONR, the NAR, the COP, the NTA, in 10 years, it might change again. Those 150,000 persons, they are there. That bridge constituency will always be there and it will continue to build. My take on it is that I am willing to serve my country. And before people decide to criticize me, I offered my support to Keith Rowley as the Prime Minister because I will always put country first. I'm a patriot before a politician. I said, I am willing to help you to reduce crime. Nobody must expect and hope that a prime minister, a minister of national security, or a commissioner of police should fail. We must be willing to support them in every aspect. And that's what I will intend to do until he's removed from office, because you must support that. If you don't, well, then you're an enemy of the state. So he refused. So I am working with other political parties who have the same mindset to say, let's transform Trinidad and Tobago. So be it. So the concept is that if and when we win, we will have corporations that I will have the opportunity now to work with the municipal police to do the exact things I did as commissioner of police to make those corporations, those boroughs secure. And that is the concept.
And then the next step, would it be the general election? You still want to be prime minister?
I still want to serve my country. That is it. I never had an ambition to be an army captain, a security advisor, a security minister, a commissioner of police. Whatever my God and my country wants me to be is what the direction I will go. The fact of the matter is that in 1983, this concept took place with the ONR and the ULF. Strategic allocation in seats for the local government. The concept worked, and it turned into what the country saw as the best we ever saw in the country being united, which was 1986 NAR. That is the concept I intend. I want to unite the country. Let's forget about the politics. Let's just do what is right for Trinidad and Tobago.
And Gary Griffith, I know that there was no technical failure with my mic. You still want to be prime minister?
No, I just told you it's never about me. It is never about me.
It's not about you.
Yeah. It's never about me.
All right, before we have come to really the dying stages of our discussion for this morning, but as we look at the crime situation again, are you optimistic that this situation could be controlled anytime soon?
No, unfortunately, I'm not, because as I said, this could work. When I was commissioner of police or security minister, I worked with the opposition. I worked with persons who may have difference in opinions. Unless this prime minister decides to stop believing that half of the country, you can't want to lead a country if you hate half of the country. The hatred, the animosity, the vindictiveness, the targeting political opponents, that has to end. This commissioner of police has to actually embrace others, to say, look, I don't have that capability. I'm more administrative. Now we need a commissioner who is tactical, operational, strategic. Get the advice, get the support. If you're a minister who does not want to understand and appreciate policies, play a critical part. The catalyst of crime reduction is the implementation of government policies. If these three individuals don't wake up and understand those things, we will continue. If not, if they change their ways, this thing can be turned around in a few months.
All right, Gary Griffith, always a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Bye for now.
My pleasure.